What's going on, everyone? Joe Cameron, John Ritchie. It is 94 WIP. Great to be with you off and rolling on this Monday morning as we have entered the month of July. The 76ers have entered big boy territory with a big three. Paul George, a 76er. If you're just waking up to the news, yes, Paul George, as Adrian Wojnarowski reported really just a couple of hours ago, overnight. Paul George, a 76er, 4-year deal, $212 million. Obviously a move that we talked a lot about in recent weeks. And to a certain extent, I talked about a lot in recent years. Like, would it ever happen? Well, they got him. So they got Embiid, they got Maxey, they got Paul George. Obviously, still got to fill out the rest of a roster, but it's certainly a step. Look, we'll take your phone calls on that acquisition, 215-592-9494. We'll do a lot on the Phils over the weekend, winning 2 of 3 over the weekend, splitting the 4-game series going back to Thursday. Some Eagles stuff as well, all of it with you. 215-592-9494. Rich.
Hello, Joe.
Good morning there, Johnny.
More than a third of the world's sugar comes from beets.
Comes from beets?
Beets, the red things. I think they're veggies. I think they're vegetables. I've been trying lately to consume more beets.
Okay.
It usually ground up in juices and stuff because I feel like it's the responsible adult thing to do. But half of America's sugar comes from beets.
Well, I would not have known and will not ever remember that factoid as my life moves on. Here's what I will remember. While I was sleeping, Seltzer really happened, right? Paul George actually became a Sixer.
Yeah,
right?
man. Paul George is a Sixer. How about
that?
It?
All right, so here's the deal. We want to hear from everyone. Look, let me give you my thoughts here. I have been, and anyone who's listened to the show in recent weeks knows, I've been torn on this one. Really, really torn. Really, really torn. And I have not been enamored with Paul George for a host of reasons, but I've been obviously pretty clear. Like, you got to get someone. You have to get someone. You didn't necessarily have to get someone right now. I mean, there was still obviously the possibility of making a trade during the season, but that's not the preference, especially because that would involve giving up some stuff, including draft picks and all that. And given the fact that you had to get someone or some combination of someone's. And given the fact that I think there's a really good chance this was the best the Sixers could do. I mean, it just was, right? I mean, I don't think there's a better player that was going to come through this door. Because of those factors and because Paul George is, in fact, a quality basketball player. Now, a somewhat declining one. Somewhat declining. Obviously, that decline will really happen while he's here. Really happen over the next 2 to 3 years while he's here. But given the fact that he's still very good, given the fact that he's a very nice fit with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, just when you floor spacing standpoint, I got my guard, I got my forward, I got my center. I'm in. I'm in on Paul George to the 76ers. I can't say I love it, okay, because I don't love it. There have been moves in the history of Philadelphia sports that it's a no-brainer. It's 10 thumbs up. This isn't 10 thumbs up, but given the whole thing, and here's a huge fact that really helps me, and I think all of us, or I shouldn't say all of us, but many of us who had been on the fence, they didn't have to trade for him. Like, this could have been a situation to get him. You go back a couple weeks ago, the possibility of him opting into his contract with the Clippers and then getting traded. We talked about that. I mean, now you're talking about likely giving up multiple first-round draft picks, literally while giving a similar or perhaps even more amount of money to him by way of if the Clippers had signed him first. So it's not that. You still have the first-round picks for future years, which you can either use as first-round picks or you can trade. This summer, today, tomorrow, at the NBA trade deadline, whatever. You have 3. It'd be nice to get, another. Now, we'll see what happens with Kelly Oubre. Obviously, he's not of the ilk of Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George, but he's someone I think a lot of us would still be very interested in seeing the 76ers get. I mean, there's a lot to it.
He's back. Kelly Oubre's back.
Oh, Oubre overnight also?
Overnight also. 2 years, $16 million. He's back.
16?
And Eric Gordon. Drummond, and
Andre
Oubre
Drummond,
overnight.
yeah. All right, so, Drummond I knew. Gordon, that's funny, James. And Gordon I know. All right, so Oubre also. Look, we'll take your reaction to all of this at 215-592-9494. John Ritchie, Paul George, your thoughts.
I'm lukewarm.
Really?
On this.
Interesting.
Yes, I was not a Paul George proponent. I felt like there were other people with more force of will out there. That's my biggest worry about Paul George. The fire, the force of will that I thought we could get from Jimmy Butler, I don't know if I've seen that from afar from Paul George.
I like that term. Let me say, I like that term, force of will, because that also could. It concerns me
matters to this team.
It concerns me that he hasn't won more in his career.
Well, that's the thing. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, they were supposed to take the Clippers to championships, and that was 5 years that they were together.
Yep.
I think it was like they never sniffed the finals. They got to the conference finals one time.
Yep.
And that's just not good enough for those two. But I'm going to put that more on the other guy because the other guy is not a member of the Sixers. I'm going to give Paul George the benefit of the doubt. I do think this was the smartest move that we could have made. And Daryl Morey, kudos to him. He's active. He's getting work done. We didn't, to your point, we didn't trade away draft picks.
That's really big.
This was the smartest move. This was the best move. I don't know that it puts us over the top, but I give credit to Daryl Morey for having a plan and executing it. He went out there to L.A., he sat down, he got the job done. He left, with Paul George in tow. I do believe the gift of James Harden has finally paid off because they had to be commiserating over, hey, this James Harden guy, get a load of the experience, man.
It may have helped.
I think it did.
It may have.
That's neither here nor there, but Oubre back in the fold. He's got a high ceiling. We know that. Andre Drummond, we locked him up for 2 years for $10 million.
Yeah.
We know he's got amazing hands. We know he fits well here. We know we can trust him with those minutes filling in for Joel. That's going to keep Joel healthier. Fingers crossed. We now have that big three that you referred to in Joel and Tyrese and Paul. I just don't know if our big three is good enough to compete with Boston and New Villanova North at MSG. I don't know.
But they have taken a big step.
We have a chance to compete with those teams now. And if we play well, if we come together, if we work, I do think we have a chance. And I compliment Daryl Morey for going and getting this done. It was the smartest thing we could possibly do.
And I'll say this, for everyone who's bashed Morey for the last, whatever, it's been 2 years or so since he's been here, I mean, I would encourage people to take a step back and realize how much easier it is when you actually just have, what's it called, cap space. Like, he was so hamstrung for so many years based on the moves that had happened prior to him getting here. I mean, it's no coincidence that upon the first opportunity to have cap space, you're able to acquire a player of note and sign someone for $200-something million, and you don't have to give up picks. I mean, this is the thing about. I mean, look, we all know the 76ers have made so many mistakes for so many years. Look, we want to hear from you at 215-592-9494. And the acquisition of Paul George, again, it was an overnight situation around 3 a.m. our time here. Around midnight West Coast time. The Sixers, as John just alluded to, had met with him on the West Coast, the 76ers contingent, obviously with the owner Josh Harris and Daryl Morey and Elton Brand. Also, Dr. J was in the meeting trying to get Paul George to sign with the 76ers. Here's what Adrian Wojnarowski tweeted out. It was really just a couple of hours ago while most of us were sleeping. Wojnarowski tweeted out the following. He said, breaking. Free agent Paul George has agreed on a 4-year, $212 million maximum contract with the Philadelphia 76ers, sources tell ESPN. George committed in a meeting with Sixers officials and returns east to join Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey in pursuit of an NBA title. Now, Woj also went on to report the following. He says, George and his agent Aaron Mintz of CAA met with Sixers officials, including, as I just mentioned there, Josh Harris, Daryl Morey, Elton Brand, and legend Julius Erving in Los Angeles. PG agreed on a deal that includes a player option, sources said. This is a player option in the 4th year. So you know for sure you have Paul George for 3 years, which is, really the main window you want to have him for, given his current age. He may or may not be here for a 4th year. Obviously, as a declining player, if I had to guess, he'll likely opt into that when the time comes because, push it out 3 years from now, he'll be more declining. So in all likelihood, you'll have Paul George in Philly for 4 years. James Seltzer, and again, everyone at 215-592-9494. James, your thoughts on what happened?
I'm thrilled, man. Look, I think this was the best option available for this team, certainly with the way the market played out. Paul George was the prize of the free agent class, and he makes sense with Embiid and Maxey. Like you guys have said, it's not like we're constructing the perfect guy to come in and fix everything here. But as far as it goes, this is as good as they could have done. And to add Drummond, to add Gordon, to bring Oubre back, last week I was like, borderline despondent about the Sixers. I said I was dead inside.
Yeah.
Like, this is the first time in a while I feel hope. Like, are they better than the Celtics right now? No, probably not. But we know the way the NBA is now. Like, guys get hurt. There's a different champion each year now. If this group right now, they actually have a chance to win a title. And that's way more than I've been expecting recently.
And when you say it's probably now their best chance?
Easily. Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I mean, the Jimmy
chance.
Butler year, they had a shot. They did have a shot. I mean, they lost to a team on a buzzer beater Game 7 that eventually won the championship. So I do think that 2019 Sixers group was the best group they've had in these last, whatever it's been, 6-7 years. But I would hope that this group is better than that. When look, Joel, it's like, dude, we're going to need you. And I'll say this, not just for 2 months in the postseason to lead the team in April, May, and June. I'll be a big advocate. Now, they got to be careful on this one because you don't want to overcook him in the regular season. We all understand that reality. You want to keep him healthy. But these guys got to play together. Like a good amount. If there's one thing I've learned more and more the older I get with the NBA, it's the teams that play together. You can't just throw guys together at a trade deadline, 15 games, and slop it together and win a title in June.
Continuity matters.
It does matter. It does matter.
Even though Paul George has tons of experience with that very concept right there from these last few years with Kawhi and James Harden both trying to time it up.
Sure.
Let's play as little as humanly possible during the regular season, and then we'll get to the postseason.
If you notice,
try to piece it all together.
The teams that generally win the championship, I mean, really, for all the talk about, load management and all that stuff, it's almost always a 1 or a 2 seed. I mean, the Celtics were the 1 seed. Denver the prior year had been the 1 seed.
Teams that have been together. The Nuggets have been together a long time. Tatum and Brown have played together forever.
No question. No question. All right. All of this on the table. I mean, it is a big deal. It is a big deal. Obviously, one of the biggest free agent deals in the history of the town. I mean, Paul George is Sixer. Again, if you're waking up to the news, a 4-year, $212 million deal. You also get Oubre. You also get Andre Drummond. You also get Eric Gordon.
Did you see? I saw a report from October of last year, Bleacher Report. Paul George was asked to characterize his experience with the Clippers. Mm-hmm. He said, injury-prone, inability to finish.
Yeah.
We need the opposite of that from him.
Well, that's what Joel has been.
Yes, you're right.
For what it's worth.
We have underachieved. And Paul George can now help us try to change that trend, reverse that trend.
And look, you want
what we need.
You want a hungry dog.
Is he hungry?
To use an Eagles term, you want a hungry dog. And I guess we'll find out whether they got one. Because I agree with John. Force of will, he's never struck me. Because I want to be clear. Well, I'm happy they got him. I don't love him. I don't don't want, freaking Nova.
But he is
Nova
such an
North
upgrade. He's such an upgrade over Tobias.
I know, but I want, when he plays Josh Hart, I want him to try just as hard as Josh Hart. Because Paul George trying his hardest is supposed to be a lot better than Josh Hart trying his hardest. Yeah. But if Paul George doesn't try his hardest and Josh Hart does, now the gap just on that one matchup gets closed a bit. All right, 215-592-9494. Your thoughts on all of this. It's a big day. Also the Phils. We'll go into the weekend series they had, splitting the series, but 2 of 3 over the weekend. Some outstanding pitching. All that and more. Your phone calls as well. Joe DeCamera and John Ritchie. It's 94 WIP.